Hello, it's Kurgan here, back with another BF3 weapon review. Today I'll be covering the AUG A3 and the changes it received for the Armored Kill Weapon patch on September 4th. Now, unlike some of the other assault rifles, this weapon didn't really get any large changes from the patch. The only change that it did receive was a change on the long reload time. It went from 3.0 seconds to 2.9 seconds. So it's not a huge deal, but it is something that benefits the weapon. Now, since there was no major changes for this weapon for the patch, I'm just going to basically cover the weapon characteristics for it and cover where I think it fits in the assault rifle lineup. Now, the AUG A3 is a weapon that I hadn't really used much before this review. Previously, if I wanted a long-range assault rifle, I basically went with the AK-74M or the G3A3. I'm not going to cover the G3A3 as its characteristics are a lot different than this weapon, so I'll basically talk about the AK-74M in comparison since they're similar. And I just felt that it was a better weapon long range, mostly because I like the recoil characteristics of it, so that's what I went with. And if I wanted a medium range to closer range assault rifle, I went with the M416. So those are basically my go-to weapons for different ranges for assault rifles for a long time. But the Nuongo on YouTube left a comment and asked me to try this weapon out, so I figured I'll give it a shot, you know. So basically, I'm just going to do a breakdown of the characteristics and where I think it belongs in the assault rifle lineup. Now, as I already mentioned, the AK-74M and the M416 are competitors with this weapon, but there's also two more assault rifles that do contend with it, and that's the SCAR L and the L85A2. That's 5 assault rifles. They all fall in between 620 rounds per minute and 750 rounds per minute. That's a lot of competition in a 130 round per minute gap. But after playing with this weapon a little bit, I think it does stand out. The big saving grace for the AUG is the fact that it's a bullpup, and that's something that makes it stand out from a few of these weapons. Now, the benefit to being a bullpup is if you're running or sprinting, it doesn't matter. Stand, crouch, and prone, all those positions, you have 0.5 less recoil than the AK-74M, the SCAR L, or the M416, while you're just hip firing the thing. So it's much more accurate when doing that. So that's something that is interesting for how low of rounds per minute this gun actually fires. Now, the other great characteristic about this weapon is it has insanely low vertical recoil. It's 2.0 vertical recoil. It is tied for the lowest vertical recoil of any assault rifle in the game, with the SCAR L, the L85, and the KH-2002. Now, the really interesting part about this weapon, though, is it has high horizontal recoil, which is something you wouldn't really think that you would see on a weapon with only 700 rounds per minute. But comparing it to L85, which is also a bullpup, I think it's a characteristic of the bullpup weapons to have this. When I did my review for this weapon, I never used the foregrip, and I never had any problems. Even without the foregrip, this weapon was great. So if you tack on that foregrip, I really don't think that horizontal recoil is going to be a problem. I didn't even think it was a problem without the foregrip, so I don't think that that's a deal breaker in any way. Now, the other characteristic, the bad part about this weapon, is it has a high first shot recoil. What a high first shot recoil means is that basically your first shot is going to kick at a certain amount. Now, it's 3.0 on this weapon, which is extremely high. So this weapon is basically going to be bad for burst firing, because your first shot's going to kick a lot more than your second, third, or fourth shot down the line. So you're going to want to do long bursts with this weapon rather than a short burst like something like the M416 would be great for. For my personal playstyle, that actually fits a lot better, but for some others, that might not be for you. So that's really going to be down to basic preferences of the weapon yourself. Now, the other benefit that this weapon has is it's the fastest muzzle velocity out of any of the assault rifles in the game at 670. So these bullets get there. You don't have to lead as much as any other weapons. The KH-2002 and the M16s are second fastest. Those are all at 650 rounds per minute. So this has a pretty decent gap. Now, another important thing, especially with this weapon being a bullpup, is the reload timers, because if it's a long reload, it's not good for close quarters, and that kind of goes against the bullpup. But it's got okay reload timers. The short reload is 2.5 seconds. Now, well, that's not groundbreaking. That's actually one of the slower assault rifle reload times for the short reloads in the game. But the big thing about this is its long reload. It's the third shortest in the game. So it clocks in at 2.9 seconds. So no matter what you're doing, this weapon has a pretty good reload. You can dump the clip, whereas some other assault rifles, you're going to say, I better not do that because the reload is going to take more than 3 seconds. Well, this thing reloads at 2.5 seconds for short and 2.9 seconds if the clip's empty. So you can really do whatever you want with this weapon, and you don't have to think, oh boy, I have to actually find some cover to reload this thing because it's going to take forever. So I think that that's huge for this weapon, and I think it fits well with the bullpup because you can just dump that clip and feel comfortable that you're going to be able to get that weapon reloaded before somebody else shows up. And the last interesting fact of this weapon is the fact that it is a bullpup, but it can be underslung, which I don't think there's any other underslung bullpups. It's not a huge deal, but some people may really like that fact, so it's just something to remember. Now, what does this all mean? I think that the AUG bridges the gap at 700 rounds per minute between the slow assault rifles, which are the G3, the AK-74M, the SCAR-L, and the L85, and the mid-range assault rifles, which are the M416 and the M16A3 really well. I think that it actually is a perfect bridge between those because it has great vertical recoil. The horizontal is really interesting, but it's also a bullpup, and its reload timers, short or long, are both not bad. Long's actually really good. So I think it's a good gap bridger, and after using it, I actually feel really comfortable with this weapon. It kind of reminds me of the M416 before the patch. And now I say before the patch because all assault rifles except for the G3 got a heavy barrel nerf before the patch, and I do use a heavy barrel with this weapon, so they all got affected by that. And I kind of felt that the M416 overall received a nerf from that, whereas this weapon kind of feels like the M416 did before the patch because of its low vertical recoil. I think it's a great weapon, and I think it fits in there well. It's just that you're going to have to choose what you want, and I kind of think that it gives you a good middle ground because it's good hip firing and it's pretty good mid to long range. So I'd say definitely keep this in mind as an assault rifle. I give it a thumbs up, so I highly suggest trying it. That's it for this review. So like I said, try out the AUG A3. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, or subscribe. If you want to see something else reviewed, leave it in the comments, let me know, and I will see you guys in the next review. Thanks for watching.